It's Aaron, and today I got to level with you folks. Bernie Sanders, I mean, he's a really great candidate. He wants to get rid of student loan debt, completely eliminate it. He wants to give everybody in the entire country Medicare for all, basically socialized medicine so nobody has to pay for a doctor ever again. He wants to get out of all of these insane wars. And those are all amazing things, but I gotta level with you here. He's a white man. And not just a white man, an old white man. Probably the worst scum on the face of the earth. I mean, old white men are the patriarchy. They're the problem. They are terrible. And we need to, well, maybe not exterminate them, but certainly not listen to anything that they have to say. And even if there is an old white man of all things, that is saying that we need equality and that we need to work together and that we need solidarity and that we need to save people's lives, it's still a bit yikes. I mean, yikes, guys. An old white man? Can we really, in 2020, be thinking about having someone like that, someone with that skin tone, with that race, actually be the president of the United States? I'm not sure if he's up for the job. I really don't think that somebody like an old white man could be somebody that could help people and not just continue to hurt them. Obviously, I'm being a little bit facetious right now, and I'm sorry if I overreacted a little bit, but this is the kind of rhetoric that I constantly see on the world cesspool known as social media. And it's such a misguided way of thinking about things that it actually damages the left. It not just damages the left, but it damages the entire world, because when we're not thinking about things critically, when we're not looking at life or the world in a nuanced, intelligent way, then we are inevitably going to fail, right? And we have to learn from our mistakes in the past if we're ever going to succeed in the future. Now, liberals, right, they like to use identity politics as sort of a trump card. Socialists aren't really that way. Socialists and everybody that's post-capitalist, most of us understand that there is a time and a place and a usefulness that comes with identity politics. For example, if you are in a group and there's another person that happens to be the same skin tone as you, or the same gender as you, or the same, background, ethnicity, whatever, then you're going to have certain things in common with that person that you wouldn't with a lot of other people. That's where a lot of commonalities come from. That's where a lot of solidarity comes from. And that's where you really get to have that shared lived experience with another person. Of course, that person's not going to have all of the same experiences as you. Nobody will. But it's interesting and helpful in a lot of ways to be able to get together with other people that have experienced similar things and have similar backgrounds and have similar mindsets and find out what each other think, what each other believe, and work together so you can make those groups better. And if they're marginalized, help them become unmarginalized, that sort of thing. But, like I say, there is a time and a place for that sort of thing. And through solidarity, it is really important. But when we start making divisions on those lines, that's when we start seeing real problems. Liberals have basically recuperated identity politics to serve their agenda. And you can see this all across the board. Our differences shouldn't be looked at as something that is bad, obviously, like the Republicans or like conservatives usually do. But at the same time, our differences shouldn't be used as a form of division either. They should be celebrated. They should be enjoyed. They should be looked at as something that is beneficial, but they definitely shouldn't be used as something that we should divide people on. And I see that on the right as well as with liberals, who are also right-wing, but we're not going to talk about that now. A perfect example of how liberals have recuperated this identity politics idea and used it to serve their own purposes, to either get more money or to get more votes, is the recent attacks against Bernie Sanders. One of which being Elizabeth Warren her campaign and a lot of her supporters using the idea of believing women when she was blatantly lying about Bernie Sanders, saying that a woman shouldn't be able to run for president. Now, obviously, that was a falsehood. But Elizabeth Warren and her campaign used the leftist idea of believing women, pertaining often to rape victims, because rape victims are often not believed, and they switched that around so they could recuperate it and use it to their political advantage and give Elizabeth Warren a little bit of a boost, even though it didn't fucking work at all. Thank goodness people are starting to wake up to this sort of thing. But this is exactly the sort of rhetoric that has been going on in liberal circles for decades, and this is exactly the sort of thing that a lot of people are really upset about, because when we focus all of our attention on race, on gender, on sexuality, on ethnicity, on backgrounds, on all of these things, then we are honestly losing sight of the bigger picture that we are all human beings and we need similar things. Obviously, certain groups are going to need certain attention in other certain areas. That goes without saying. People that are handicapped and are in a wheelchair are going to need wheelchair accessible buildings. People that are transgender are going to need separate bathrooms, or God forbid, we just have one bathroom that everybody could use, but I digress. As leftists, we can't have this liberal mentality that we can only stand up for one group at a time. First the blacks, then the women, then the gays, then the Jews. We don't have time for that sort of thing. And thinking about things as though it's some sort of line, some sort of queue where first you get your rights, then the person behind you, then the person behind you, is inherently just a toxic mentality. We are all human beings. We all deserve rights and freedoms and equality like everyone else. And to treat certain groups differently, or to give them rights in sort of a queue fashion, first you, then you, then you, then you, then we're inevitably going to make things fucking worse. But this is what happens when liberal think tanks and organizations get together to find ways to use leftist language to sell you things. It doesn't matter if those things are products or people, politicians or fucking Dove soap. It doesn't matter what it is. They're going to work together to find some sort of way to sell you on these things. And if they can recuperate leftist language to do that, then that's what's going to happen. The truth about the entire world, and the thing that all of us really do deeply understand at the end of the day, I hope, is that you never, ever get to choose who you are, racially, sexually, whatever it is. You don't get to choose those things. Those things are inherently something that you are born into, and you have to deal with the cards that you are dealt. And equating all people with the same skin color, or gender, or nationality with others that were bad or even good, and saying that they are all the same, is a fucking problem. It's a problem on the right when they do it with racism, and it's a problem on the liberal right when they do it with identity politics and the recuperation thereof. We can use our identities to our advantage in certain situations. Like I was saying before, it does help us to find those groups of people that have similar outlooks and similar life experiences. But that isn't all there is. There are other things involved in the world that we have to take into consideration as well. And we have more in common with every one of each other than we ever will with these elite politicians and business people and bureaucrats that control the entire world right now. You don't get to choose your race or your gender. It's not that all black women are great and all white men are bad. We're all fucking people, and we had no choice in any of those decisions. It's not just Bernie Sanders being a white man and therefore he is bad. It's the establishment that's bad. It's the entire system that is corrupt and that has created this patriarchal format that we've been living under for so long. That's the thing that we need to fix. Blaming individuals for a systemic problem is not going to fix that problem. It might make you feel a little bit good for a little while until you block that person on social media, but outside of that, you're doing nothing. Actually, I would argue that you're doing worse than nothing. You're actually doing damage to the movement. At least that's the way I look at it. My name is Aaron. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day.